It's summertime here. Calling the St. Joseph County Library Board meeting to begin. I will call for a quorum. I think we have, so Alan.
Here, and I have my packet.
Okay. Ruth,
Here.
Christine.
Here.
Ooh, strong voice. Terry.
Here.
And Nicole is not here,
Correct.
and Ann is somewhere in. So on the highway. We do have a quorum,
Cypress.
so we could do
Yep,
business.
yep.
In front of you, you have a consent agenda for the meeting. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve.
I have a second.
Second.
So moving a second that we approve the consent agenda. Since we don't have a quorum, I need to call it by its name, right?
No,
No,
only if somebody's joining us virtually.
all in favor? Any opposed? All right, ayes have it. Director's report. Stephanie, please.
Hello.
What's the good news?
So an update on the next chapter, we're gonna begin meeting bi-weekly. Oh, I see I had a spelling error in my report. I apologize, with MKM. This week, for the design portion of our projects, they should have a first draft on center's renovation. We're waiting on a contract with them. There are a couple of pieces that they're waiting on, which is landscape, architect, and mechanical engineering. So as soon as they get those pieces together, I would expect by next board meeting, we'll have a contract with them.
Can I ask a question about next chapter? I was to the site in Lakeville, and I still can't picture where an open area is. It doesn't seem like there's space.
Sure, so between the building and the neighborhood, there's like a little mini lot there that just has like a little shed on it. We own that piece of property.
Okay.
Yeah, it almost looks like it belongs to the neighbor, but it doesn't. It's ours.
Okay, good. Okay, sorry, I just
No, that's okay.
wanted to include it with our next chapter.
Anjanette and I met with bond counsel and the financial advisors from Baker Tilly. MKM was also in the meeting with us. And I included that draft calendar for your information. And then our next chapter page of our website is up and running. If you haven't had a chance to look at that, that looks pretty great. Taylor did a good job designing. No, Helen did a great job of designing that. And those pieces will move around as we do projects, sort of letting the public know where we're at on the different phases. Our staff survey closed out actually end of day Friday. And then managers did paired interviews. And all of this is in conjunction with our strategic planning efforts. We're looking at 2025 through 2029, which I, at my age, think, is that even a real number?
2029.
2029. It's a real date coming up here before too long. So we'll do a 5-year strategic plan. Joe Geprick, our facilities manager, was selected as one of the City of South Bend's Office of Sustainability Cohort Climate Action Ambassadors. So he'll represent us as one of 5 ambassadors. And they're working on that climate action plan for the city. Insurance renewal, which you'll hear more about later. We did host Indiana Library Federation's regional conference here. I love that day. We have a really good turnout. The building is full, which I always love to see, but it is often anyway. But I like being the host for that regional conference. Summer Reading Club is coming up. We just got the final draft, and I can pass this around. These are the stickers that if you register for the summer reading program, you'll get these stickers. Taylor did design these. They look amazing.
I got them. Where do I pick my stickering book up?
What sticker do you want?
So that's the final proof. The order, I think, went in today, so we'll have enough stickers for everybody soon enough, but I just think they did such a great job of designing those for the summer reading club. And if you want to come to the kickoff party, that's on June 7th. If you know people, invite them. And if you have not already stopped by Buettner Kernan to see the History Museum's exhibit, please do that. Did you have a question?
What we asked who the designer was. of this.
Taylor,
And what time is the kickoff party?
4:30 to 7 in the courtyard. It's a great family event, all ages event. And then Buettner Kernan through October, not the end of October, mid-October, I think, is hosting the KKK, not the exhibit for the KKK. Let me be clear.
Let's try it again.
It's the 100th anniversary of the Notre Dame disruption of the KKK
Thank you.
event. To be very clear, not a KKK exhibit. So that will be free and open to the public, and we know people are already coming and walking through there, so. That's it.
Questions? Yes, sir.
So I noticed on the timeline for the bond issue that we're anticipated to go before the county council for a committee meeting hearing on September 24th. And then the following week or two, they're gonna, 2 weeks later, they'll consider the resolution for the bond issue. So you'll let us know if there's
Mhm.
anything this summer we can do to try to help
Yes,
get ready for that.
yep. So we'll start with some conversations and see how much support we need.
Okay.
Just let us know when to turn out the button.
So do you want us to let you know if we know any county council members that if we have relationships with them, we might help with?
Yes. Mhm.
Okay.
Just adding to Stephanie's comments regarding the KKK display, my wife and I attended the kickoff and it was fabulous. I had a sense of what had happened, but nothing like this right now.
Yeah.
And to be right, it's very spot looking out the window, it's pretty amazing.
Pretty amazing.
Mhm.
So if you haven't been,
Yep, highly recommend.
yes.
And that exhibit is actually designed to travel once it's done here. So the state museum has a number of exhibits that you can borrow. They have one on prohibition in Indiana and different topics. And this will be one of those exhibits that different libraries and museums can borrow and have sent to them.
The county, is it, the county commissioners are different from the county council.
Mhm.
So is it
It's these 9 people.
of nine?
There's 9 of them, yeah.
They have to approve. Oh,
We may want to send out to the board through the members, sorry, just make sure we have that.
Jennifer's got it.
We'll tell you, you'll tell Jenny. Jenny, while you're.
She keeps my communications on track.
Right here.
She knows. She's got it.
okay. Any other questions for Stephanie? If not, do I have a motion to approve her report?
So moved.
A second?
Second,
It's been moved and second that we accept the director's report. All in favor, say aye.
I,
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Jenny,
Okay. All right.
numbers.
No, and I'm gonna keep it brief because the pollen reminds me of
Killer.
we're currently having a battle.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
it's in.
Tis with
That's
these.
awful.
All right, so a few things. First of all, one thing since I've been putting top checkouts on the report now, I'm learning so much about what people check out all the time, more than before. When you see it every month, you kind of, and a lot of things stay the same. I wanted to point out that Bear Has a Belly was the top checkout for children's books. Pretty notable. Also, I'm gonna point out Wi-Fi stats because Wi-Fi is one of those things that has just, we have not yet reached the peak of when it will kind of plateau or sort of come to a natural rhythm of what we can expect year to year. So generally across the system, we see about 2,000 clients a day using our Wi-Fi, and that's, you know, understanding what a number is always important, so I would take that with a grain of salt, but it does mean that there are 2,000 kind of like log access points for our Wi-Fi use, which doesn't necessarily equate to 2,000 people, but is a good facsimile for how much like individual usage we're seeing. And also each of those sessions lasts about 40, well, this is for computer use, but each session on a computer lasts about 44 minutes. So we know that people are coming and they're sitting for a while and kind of doing whatever they need to do, as opposed to coming in for 5 minutes, maybe checking out one thing. So I think those give a little bit of some flavor to computer use and Wi-Fi, which just continue to grow and grow over time. Our total visits are also up, and this is largely due to the fact that we got a new main door counter here on our entrance, which more accurately reflects our gate count. I mean, gate count is really difficult because you got people coming in and out, you have babies and strollers, you have people who might be walking with one gate, and that can affect the count. But this is a more accurate reflection, and that's why we have this gigantic, amazing upward ascension. But I think the other point of that is our gate count is truly up because each of our branches have had an increase this month. So we're seeing it across the system, not just here at Maine.
Why do you think this happening? Is it in the school?
Yeah, I mean, it does, we tend to kind of go up towards this time of year. Usually things drop a little bit in May. So it's a little bit unusual, but it could be weather, it could be programs we're doing, it could be a variety of
Could be
things.
the advertising about the summer reading program.
Well, this is April, right?
Yes, thank
So spring break.
Oh,
Yes, that's right, but things usually drop in April, not May,
Yeah.
sorry, I was one month ahead.
It's easy to do.
Yeah, so it's, I do think that we have seen increases in our visitation year over year. So this just kind of follows along with that trend. On the other hand, circulation is down, but it is tracking with what we see year on year. So it's kind of that expected, we have a better expected curve of how materials flow through our system, the circulation. And then one other just nod to do is Studio 304 use. We track many things, Studio 304 groups and a lot of information, but I include recording, studio reservations, and computer use, which is the computers being used specifically in that space, which is generally a more specialized use. And those are both and have been up all through the year, which just shows how popular that space is. I made it. Whew.
Good. Questions for Jenny?
So in this space, the Community Learning Center in particular, with all the folks that are here and all these different meeting rooms, the auditorium and the ballroom and conferences and everything. What do we do when it comes to Wi-Fi? I'm thinking have we noticed that are there times when we've got people using all these spaces and everybody is logged into their telephones and everything trying to push, have we noticed like slowdowns, or there are things we need to do, or are we keeping up with, are we hearing any complaints from people?
No, our IT team, we haven't had any issues with connectivity or Wi-Fi use because, and I don't necessarily think it's this building that drives the increases in Wi-Fi use. I think there's just a need in our neighborhoods. Because it's a lot of the neighborhood branches that see the biggest increases month on month. But no, it hasn't affected our speed or connectivity at all.
And in the branches in particular, are you noticing that it's people that are coming in the library? Because I know they can also use it if they can sit in the parking lot and do other things too, which I think is tremendous that people know that we've got a hotspot, so if they need to do something, that they can stop and do it. But
I mean, that is hard to know.
are we getting a sense of that?
Yeah, it's hard to, I mean, anecdotally, I think a lot of people do connect to especially branches that are in more residential areas. They will connect even if they're not right in the location. But I think a lot of it is use in the branch or like in our parking lot or
Right.
sitting in one of our areas.
Which I think is great.
Anything else? Okay, thank you. Jeanette?
Okay,
Money can be spent.
you all have the report the fund report and the appropriations unless there's any questions. I'm just gonna give some highlights. Our ADP payroll is live and we did not have any major issues with, people getting paid. That was my major thing, that everybody got paid on Friday. And so they did. We're still tweaking some things, vacation time, things like that, but, in general, I think that Kara can chime in if she's in here. And she can chime in if there's anything else, but I think that in general, we're moving a little bit more smoothly with the payroll, with the payroll part of it.
When you transition payroll softwares, it's a really big deal when everyone gets paid and gets paid accurately on time. And the business office and the HR team did a great job of making sure that implementation got done on time.
Can I ask a question? So the change did what for your office?
So multiple things. Our former system had some limited capabilities in some areas. And we needed additional software to kind of give us everything we needed. So we were able to eliminate a few softwares by going to ADPs. It's, one platform. The kind of ancillary things are the things that we're most excited about. Because you get paid, right? It doesn't make a difference, but we'll have the ability to do, reviews in the system and it will be automated. The managers will be able to see, oh, I have a review due, and then it can automatically go to who needs to approve the review without all of the oversight from our team. So there's gonna be a lot of time savings. It also has a more robust learning management system than the one that we're using. We're getting more free trainings than we were with our previous one, which is really helpful. And we can just define it as part of an onboarding process, which is really nice. So streamlining things for employees so that they can rely on going to one place for these things, saving us time. That's team time. Once everything's all.
Once that's
Right now, we're still spending a lot of.
We're still in implementation.
So Anjanette, I once worked with someone who said to me, never mess with people's kids and never mess with people's parents.
Absolutely.
It's the
If
truth.
someone's pay would have been not correct, I would say, Rachel, this is your job.
Yeah.
So there were several things that we were like, this is important, but she has payroll to do. Like, you guys are on the back burner. Paychecks have got to be correct. So I agree with that. Don't mess with people's paychecks.
And Rachel did a
She did a
really
great
great job too.
She did a great job.
Just an aside, we had a payroll incident in a southern plant, and it turns out somebody's check, this was a disaster. The serial number was 666, and this woman was terrified.
Oh,
And I'm doomed, so they should have.
well, luckily, everybody gets direct deposit, so they don't really have to check number. To actually look at, they just have the paycheck, so let's hope their check isn't 666, so, but that hasn't happened that I know of. Okay, so that was where we said ADP. We are at 33% of the year, we're in the 4th month, so we're tracking our expenses, pretty well, we're about 6% below, that 33%, so we're spending, our spending is good, and so we're not overspending in any categories where it's not expected, where something we paid earlier in the year just flows itself out, so I'm very happy about that. Our utilities are approximately at this time per year, about 3% less than we appropriated in the budget, so I think that's pretty good.
It has to do with the solar thing,
Well, on the solar panels are actually, we did get a little bit more savings. There, we were at 21.04% average, from when we started, so that sunny month, I think that it helped a little bit. No, even though we had a bit of rain in April, but it did, jump up a bit. And it jumped up about 2.28%. So I'm excited to see what May's gonna do. And see, once we get through May, June, July, when we actually put it in and see a whole year's worth of data. So I think it's moving along pretty well. With our other funds, Trust Indiana, we're at 5.3599 yield. That has been pretty consistent since we've had it. Right now, I'm hearing that the interest rates may not drop in June, as I talked about a couple months ago, that that may drop, so that will be a happy for us if it does not drop. So I'll still continue to continue to review that. And the only other, we anticipate our June draws, tax draws on time. I haven't heard anything any different. So I think it's kind of status quo at this point.
The stock market held good on 40,000.
Yeah.
No, audits this month.
Oh, we're still in audit. They haven't actually come, they haven't actually come to talk to us yet.
Well, it's the new audit.
It's the component user audit. So they haven't come to talk to us. They've been getting information back and forth,
Just
but they have
assume-
not scheduled to come talk to us
Just
yet.
assume the business office will always be in some phase of audit from this point forward.
So that's where we are with the audit.
Audit fair.
So other than that, that's all I have.
Question. So I need a motion to accept the pictures report and the financial report. And a motion to have a second.
Second.
Move the second that we accept the pictures report and the financial report. All in favor, say aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it. Unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business? I don't
No.
think so. So we go to new business. Rona, you're gonna give us a public policy update. You have a thing you have to do, right? I see.
Yeah, for the information policy updates, we'd like to remove library volunteers will assist with responding to requests for local history research. Only because that's something that used to happen quite a bit before the pandemic, and we're not really doing that anymore. It could potentially, but it's not the standard practice, so I'd like to remove that. And then under library computers, we'd like to remove children up through the 8th grade are eligible to use computers and use services at the main library. And mostly that's because caregivers can also use the computers in that department, and they do, so it's not limited to just up through 8th grade. That was a really good.
Almost read this as being children up through the 8th grade are not eligible. So we're removing.
Yeah.
No, it's just an absence of information, of restriction on the computer use.
Yeah, I know where she was going. It just
Yeah.
threw me a couple of times.
Oh.
Anybody else?
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out.
so while it was previously restricted, it's not in practice
Oh, okay.
being restricted.
Correct.
So this is for the manual.
Mhm.
Okay.
For the public
So-
service policy,
So it'll change, okay, I got it.
Yes.
public
Okay,
service
now-
policy, yeah.
okay, Now it makes sense.
And we'll just work our way through all of the policies and make sure they're up to
Anybody
date.
have any comments or questions? Or no? I understand. Have a motion to approve the information policy update. Have a second.
Second.
It's been moved and second that we approve the information policy updates. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. And insurance matters, Jeanette.
We will have a presentation by, Craig, and then I'll talk about the, recommendation.
All right,
Can we stand or?
yeah, go ahead and just stand right there, Craig. Thank you. Craig Heatherly from Gibson.
Yes, and my 666 stories in 7th grade football broke my thumb and my foot. My helmet was 666, so. I don't spell that. I haven't thought about that in a while. True story. A week later, I went from one cast to the next. Okay, so back in February, we met as a leadership team here at the library and also with Gibson. And it was clear that we wanted to take the insurance program out to bid. And that's exactly what we did. We had 18 groups that we approached. And as of Wednesday, there's some drama in this story. As of Wednesday of last week, we had one option. And then we met Thursday afternoon and we had 2 formal quotes and then 2 indications. And what you're seeing right now is an executive summary. you're seeing a premium analysis, that's the numbers. And then, you're also seeing an industry update. So in the premium analysis, that number, has been revised over the last couple of days, just so you know. We've now negotiated an additional $5,500 out of that price. So the challenge in this market is that property, what your homeowner's insurance looks like, property is nuts right now. All right, it's very, very expensive to replace things. So that's the challenge that we're running up against with this program. And over half of our premium is put into property. So we knew it was gonna be a challenging renewal. But based upon the marketing efforts, we're able to get a couple of groups to the table, and we're still in negotiations. But if you start to factor in the property, and then also we've had some increase in some exposures, meaning our stuff that we're insuring. So if we have more stuff, it costs more. Or if we have less stuff, it costs less. Or that's the easiest way to simplify it. So we've got more stuff. So that also is factored in into that premium analysis, which is that document with all the financials there. Let's see what else we've got here. So you'll see on the industry update, that's got what's happening. We share that with all of our clients quarter by quarter. And the hardest, most challenging line of coverage is property. Overall, you're seeing that at about 12% rate increase. And that's just for your average building. If you take a building that's really nice, really unique, it costs a little bit more. If you take a building that's just steel frame, it's just got a roof over it, it's gonna cost less, but the average is about a 12% rate increase. And that's what we're seeing in the marketplace today. So those are the results. That's the summary. Anything else would you guys like me to add commentary on? I'd be happy to.
Yeah, I'm looking at the workers' comp number. Am I reading this right? 63% change?
Yep. So if you draw a line down the middle of that page,
Okay.
and if you look on the far left, on the left side, that's our stuff, our exposures that we're insuring. So if we have more people that we hire,
Okay.
it's gonna cost more. So the stuff on the left is our exposures. And then the columns on the right-hand side of the paper, that is the insurance marketplace. Those are the rates that they're charging us. And you can see it's either an increase or decrease line by line. So that's our way of being as transparent as possible as to my insurance premiums went up or they went down and why.
So that number change, and it's not just number of positions, it's the number of people that have worked here. And as best Anjanette and I could figure it out, the first number, where are we, 2024, is a 2022 number. Because we shopped this out so last minute last year with Anjanette and I both being new. So that's why, so that's still a moving back into this building, starting to rehire people. So that's why there's such a large number difference between the employee and workers' comp number there. Alan.
So looking at, I guess, page 37 of our packet, this premium analysis, just to understand. So the first column on the left, it says expiring premium, so the total, so we paid $153,000 in total premium last year. The renewal premium on the far right side, the 183, but Craig, you were saying we could expect that to drop $5,000. So it's right now, we're probably closer to
178?
178.
Yeah,
What's your?
and it's still ongoing conversations,
Right.
but because we were able to get two.
Right, so can you explain, but now the middle one, there's one that says subtotal, and that, the total for that column was 169,000. So what's that subtotal 169, what does that represent?
That's a great question. So if I forgot to mention at the beginning, if you're seeing this for the first time, there's a lot of questions that come up. So that middle column is, let's say let's say last year, we were, just to make it very simple, let's say we were, let's see here, subtotal, so expiring premiums on the left,
Right,
and let's say all the rates, all the insurance rates, everything on the right-hand side stayed the same. On the left-hand side, if we added people, if we added buildings, if we added more to increase our exposure, we would anticipate our renewal this coming year to be $169,000. Now, you factor in what the insurance marketplace is doing, that industry update, now you factor that in, and that's how we identify our premiums are going up, but why? It's because we're getting bigger, or it's because insurance companies are charging us more. So that's our way of kind of helping clients understand the why around the numbers. Good question.
so going back then to, I don't mean to go back and forth. So going back to your point then before, so workers' comp, the 16,000, which was expiring premium, going to, if everything else, if the numbers, if our number of employees stayed the same and their compensation, everything had stayed the same, because of the change in marketplace, that would have been 26,000, is what we're saying.
Correct. Yep.
Okay, but because we've added everything, it's gone up to 30,000 in this, but that's because of the added people or.
And then the rate, you'll see there's a rate change, to land at that $30,000. Yeah, good question.
All right, so that makes sense, all right.
So. Let's look at 3 years from now. Are we looking at the same kind of, because the industry's not gonna go backwards, obviously, they're not gonna get this, they're gonna decrease their premiums. So are we looking at an increase like this almost every year for the next couple of years?
It's a great question. The easiest answer is it's gonna continue to go up overall. The last 18 to 24 months, property has been, it's just been crazy. There's like this massive recorrection of what does it cost to replace a building. So right now, we are seeing that across all of our accounts. So what we do in this process is about every 3 to 5 years, we take the team through what we call the marketing process. And that is, we have people walk the buildings, take a look at it and say, hey, we want to write this account. We want to quote this account. And that takes, you can ask Anjanette and Karen, that takes a lot of the team's time. But you do that every 3 to 5 years, essentially to starve these groups from seeing your account. And then when you show up in 3 years, they say, I want to work on this because I haven't seen it in a few years. So that's the strategy in it. But to answer your question, I mean, if you look at the industry update, I mean, it has been, we've seen an increase anywhere from 6 to 9% overall on an account for a number of years. Hopefully the property value, the property increase keeps decreasing, which we've seen over the last 12 months. It has gone down. Last year it was probably close to 18%. And now we're at about 11.8, I believe. So property's cooling off a little bit, which helps in our situation because we've got a lot of property that we're insuring.
And now Anjanette can take these numbers into budget season and plan for next year.
Yeah, and in addition to that, we do meet quarterly to kind of talk through what we're seeing in the industry to hopefully help prep the team for that.
Well, and the improvements to the branches is another thing that would be, you expect more increases just in the market, but when you improve the property, then it's gonna go higher yet, right?
Yeah.
Well, and some of that goes back and forth a little bit, because if you're, say, replacing a roof and they've noticed that your roof needs repair and you repair that, it could also work the other direction. So like a Cool Spring, just upgrading the HVAC and the roof and the carpeting, like all of that is sort of keeping the building the same, but it's making it better and safer. Sometimes you even out there, if you do a new building or an addition, yes, that's going to cause increases.
Any other questions?
I guess my question would be, if we're still in negotiations, when will we have the number?
Well, what we would ask for today, and I assume, Anjanette, I'm not stealing your thunder, is to do the approval not to exceed whatever the number is that Anjanette just said.
So we do not want to exceed the 183,640. And because we do not have another meeting before we need to sign the policy, so we will not exceed that. We already know that Kurt's gotten it down a bit. And so we are asking that you pass that we can, sign the policy not to exceed the
With Hanover.
183,640 with Hanover.
I'm assuming you guys are pleased with Hanover.
So far, so
So
good.
far,
I've had a good experience with that.
That's good. Okay. Any more questions? Okay, then I'll entertain a motion to approve that we, authorize up to $183,640, for insurance. This is for next year.
Well, it starts June 13th.
starts June 13th.
We have a motion,
So
because they don't spend money now. And a second, okay, a motion and a second to approve up to $183,640. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Ayes have it. Don't spend it.
Hopefully next month I'll be able to tell you that it was only 170,000. See, I might save you some.
That's not tripping out.
And we do need to maintain our insurance.
We do,
coverage.
yes. Okay, any other business? Do we have any visitors?
No?
All the home folk are here today. News and Education, Public Library Association Conference attendees.
Yeah,
Here.
so we had staff attend the
Yeah.
Public Library Association Conference in Columbus, Ohio. And we've invited Grace and Chris to come and tell you a little bit about their experience. Is there a presentation here? Am I gonna be?
Yes.
Let me just turn myself around. Is that better? Yeah.
So thank you for sending us and 8 other people to the PLA National Conference. It's a biennial conference that's offered by the Public Library Association. And that is a division of the American Library Association. It and the Association of College and Research Libraries are the 2 biggest divisions in ALA. And so we all met in Columbus, Ohio, April 3rd through 5th, and it was an amazing conference. Let's see. So one of the best things that we did at the conference was to leave the convention center. 4 of us went on a tour of 3 branch libraries in this metropolitan library system. We went to a suburban branch first and then 2 urban branches. So the first branch that we visited, next slide, was the Gahanna branch, which was suburban, large. And as you can see, they had amazing art in this branch. And really the art was a key focus of all of the locations of Columbus Metropolitan. They make that a hallmark of their service. So that middle picture, there are statues climbing the wall, stuff like that, that's really colorful and interesting, exciting for all ages. The picture on the right, you can see that there are 2 different size doorways into the children's area, very cool. And then on the left, we loved the magazine display that they had, so much better than what we have. So thumbs up to them, we should copy them for sure with that. And then more pictures from Gahanna branch.
during National Library Week, which was the following week in April, they did a checkout challenge that we would love to do. Grace and I were impressed by that. And we also appreciated the walker that was right out there for people to use in terms of accessibility. That really says a lot. Okay, so our second branch was the Shepherd branch, and just a few things that we noted there. This was a small urban branch. In the picture on the right, you can see pawn shop right across the street. And we were impressed at all of the locations that we visited by the furniture on wheels. It made the branches very flexible and change it up into the future. So that was something that we admired. They have culture passes, customer service, which I manage. We manage the Discovery Pass program. So we're on the same level with them, but ours is actually better because you can book the tickets online. You have to go to the branch to get it, which is old school. So yes. And then in the picture on the left, there's an opioid rescue kit, I think it's called. Out in the public along with the defibrillator. So again, responsive to the community. So more art. This is the Martin Luther King branch. African and African American art throughout this branch. Really responding to and making the patrons there feel, more included. This is a part of equity, diversity, and inclusion. So really impressed by what Columbus Metropolitan had. And then they even gave us goodie bags at the end. The librarians were really excited that we visited.
Karen loves a goodie bag.
Doesn't. So there we are with our goodie bags. And it was really funny because we went to the first branch to Gahana. And then when we got to the second branch, a staff member ran out to greet us like as an ambassador because they had called ahead and told them we were coming. So that was just cool. And everyone that we met that worked there was super excited and proud of Columbus Metropolitan, as they should be. So, and then there are a few pictures from the main library. Goodreads, this is an exhibit of books, new books on display, but really funky, like it's art and it's stuff you can walk up and grab and check out. And then, of course, more beautiful art all throughout. This was the theme of the PLA conference, Free People Read Freely. And Grace will have to show you her bag. She brought the bag with her. Yeah. And of course, we have Teresa Horn, Kara Polly, and Tamika Lax, 3 of our colleagues who are also at the conference. But we did actually stay at the convention center most of the time, and we want to tell you about some of the learning that we received, not just on the tour. So some of the topics that were covered, this was really the majority of what was covered at the conference. Equity and diversity and inclusion, neurodivergent patrons, those with autism spectrum disorder, and other examples of that were like key focuses. Trauma-informed care and librarianship. This is becoming really important at a lot of great libraries, including ours. Services for seniors, including those with dementia, safety, always important. Censorship and intellectual freedom, and artificial intelligence. So I'm just going to talk a little bit about 2 presentations that I attended. One was done by the Anne Arundel County Public Library in the Annapolis area of Maryland. And this was very timely and important for what we do in customer service, all about leading with compassion and really causing your culture within and without with the external patron and customers to focus on teamwork, respect, and trust. And they're a library that is a lot like us. Next slide. They're larger than us, but they're a combination of suburban, urban, and rural branches. And they're much bigger, however. They have 16 locations, 580,000 residents they serve, and their operating budget is $33 million. And they're independent from the county government. Also with us. Why did the culture of trust matter?
It makes everybody feel better who's working here and also the people walking in the doors. And I see that here at SJCPL as well. I think, respect and trust are a big part of what we do. Respect is one of our values that we state in our, strategic plan and our public service policy. And so they were talking about all the different benefits. Strategies for external audiences. There are just some examples here. We do some of these things too. Chromebook giveaways, gun locks. They partnered with the police departments and sheriff's department to give away gun locks at their locations. I thought that was pretty amazing. We don't have social workers that work for us, but we do have space at Main Library where social workers from Oakland and different organizations can meet with their patrons. And that's been really helpful. And of course, the trauma-informed approach is there too. Strategies for internal audiences for the staff. There was breakfast with the CEO, and we do something very similar with our town halls. Employee assistance program, we do that as well. I thought for you guys, adopt a branch by board of trustees and foundation board. Each member of the board adopts a different branch, and they adopt one that is not near where they live. So they are traveling and getting to know staff. They're expected to attend a certain number of programs. I can't remember how many, but I thought that was a really cool idea. And then the second presentation that I attended, Safety by Design. And this was all about crime prevention through environmental design. And I think Karen was in the room when we both attended that session. And I think some of the information from this presentation will be really useful in our next chapter for the branches, but also just in everyday service that we provide. So there were specialists in crime prevention through design, as well as librarians who had really used those principles in terms of like changing how people entered the building, changing the size of the desks. There's just all different ways to look at that. Next slide. Oh, thank you.
There's various amendments, we already know.
Yeah. And so incorporating crime prevention through environmental design, it just was super timely and helpful, great presentation. And now I'm going to turn it over to Grace.
Okay, so I attended several sessions, so these are my three favorite ones that I thought were the most informative. All of them were really good, but these three really stood out to me.
1 second, Grace, will you tell the board where you work, what your role is?
Great, I'm the reader services librarian and I work at Maine in customer service. Thank you. I took a picture of that sign because I thought it was really poignant. Library is the heart of every community. Next slide. Thank you. So one that I attended that I thought would be really relevant to my job description was anti-racist reader services. That was a panel led by a representative from Novelist. Novelist, for anyone who might not know, is a software that helps you recommend books to different patrons. And then there were two librarians that had roles similar to mine who were also on this panel. So they talked about different ways to include diverse books in your programming and to make sure that diverse books are reaching the audiences who need them. They talked about moving away from percentage numbers. So sometimes when you're making a display, you'll hear the adage that you should have a certain percentage of the books be diverse, which that's great. And it's good to be intentional when you're making a display, but are those books actually getting checked out? You know, you might have them on the shelf, but are people actually taking them home? So they talked about moving away from just strict percentage numbers to efficacy. They also talked about reaching readers beyond those represented in diverse books. You might have a book that has a certain point of diversity, but everyone can read that book. Everyone can enjoy that book. So how do you reach people and cultivate a readership, grow a readership for these books and all the patrons, not just some of the patrons? And so I already started with the Readers Advisory Committee, working on creating some new fun ways to display books and introduce patrons to diverse books that may not otherwise check them out. Some ideas have been the viral blind date with a book, where you might have some books in a bag and those books might say, you know, fun rom-coms, and some of those books would be diverse books that the patrons might not otherwise check out. An emphasis on joyful books, and then also displays that are 100% diverse rather than hitting an arbitrary percentage. And when we say 100% diverse, those would all be different points of diversity, religion, sexuality, race, ability, and so on. Next slide. I also attended this really good session, which was about programming for patrons with memory loss. So our population is rapidly aging, and that means we have to provide more programming for seniors, many of whom will have memory loss. They discussed how programming should be appropriately challenging, but also ability inclusive, but it should not feel childlike or demeaning. Because just because you're a senior, who might have some struggles with ability and dexterity, that doesn't mean you wanna be coloring something a 5-year-old would color. So they talked about potentially using middle grade children's nonfiction books that have pictures, but also are informative and somewhat academic. So that way it can be inclusive and you can use those books to reach those patrons and not have them feel talked down to. They also talked about a bunch of free organizational materials that you can be provided, there we go. Tons of free resources for libraries to make their own memory cafe programs. Memory cafe is just being a certain type of programming where you have things geared towards reminiscing. So you might have old music, you might have old photos from around town, and you might have simple activities like dancing or artwork that encourage patrons to make new friends and also be in an inclusive environment with themselves and their caregivers and a really patient staff member. Next slide. So I also attended a session about neurodiverse volunteers in libraries. Neurodiversity here referring primarily to autism, but also is inclusive of all neurological, intellectual, and developmental conditions. We might think of Tourette's, or you might think of Down syndrome, but also be someone who is neurodivergent. So presenters at this session had partnered with local disability advocacy groups at their libraries to provide volunteer experiences for adult neurodiverse patrons. And they emphasized that they viewed this internally more as a program and less like the same volunteer experience you would have with a neurotypical volunteer. So you might have more staff that were trained to help with these programs. You might have more staff that the volunteers could reach out to if they had an issue, versus another volunteer who's neurotypical might be more autonomous. They also discussed how they did an evaluation and an interview with each of the patrons before they started volunteering to figure out where their abilities were at. So this could include dexterity, verbal ability, attention span, to make sure the volunteer opportunities they were partnered with were accessible to them and something they could benefit the library and the patron. Next slide. And this is a nice picture that was taken of all of us. A random person came up and took a picture of us. We thought that was kind of strange, but then it showed up in the PLA newspaper the next day. They had this little thing that they gave out the start of every day, and we were there front center. And
Stars,
then
as it should be.
yes. And then the next PLA is in Minneapolis in 2026. And it was a really, really cool experience, and thank you for helping us attend.
Thank you very much. Any questions?
The term they use, the adopt a branch, that caught my attention. I was notorious one time for chasing managers out of their office and making them go walk around the plant. See what they're really going on.
I think you're supposed to do that.
Yeah, management by walking around is what I call it.
Oh, they were your employees, so not library employees. So that's exactly like my heart stopped.
Anyway, I think somewhere there's a connection there that makes sense to me. I don't know how you would deploy it or implement it, but I would welcome being connected to a location and spending time there and learning what's going on. I think it would improve our view of things sometimes.
It could be included in board orientation, you know, these are the expectations of a board member. I don't know, I mean, my memory isn't that good, but I don't know if we ever had a list of expectations for board members.
Under the number of meetings to show up for?
Well, I mean, just like general, you know, expectations, like what should you do as a board member?
In the public trust documents covers some of that, not to the detail level.
Yeah.
To the
That
extent,
was some thought.
yeah, I mean, it's interesting because Terry, I had an experience about 4 or 5 years ago where I kind of spent a few times roaming through different branches, and I know there was a call down to the main office saying, hey, there's a board member here that's been asking a bunch of questions. And I don't, Jenny, do you remember that? I got a call from the director saying, hey.
And that's a good example.
No,
That's
but
good.
I would not.
Talk to the superintendent
Right, right.
before you went out,
Yeah.
you know, to let them know.
Yes, no, but I wouldn't mind if we wanted to do a voluntary thing where, we would volunteer to,
Be at a.
But
program.
not be considered an outside consultant.
No,
I
no,
mean,
no,
somebody
but
who-
to attend, I think it'd be interesting to think of branch like you said, not our own. And find out what's going on at the branch and maybe they can let us know what's going on and we can pop in. And then maybe we could shadow somebody and just get a sense of what it's like at the resource desk or whatever. But again, it's gonna be more work for the staff probably, but I'd be willing to try. I think it'd be interesting for us to get to know a little bit more.
Sure, I think we just need to think through the governance versus, yeah, so it,
Maybe not mandatory, but if we wanted.
but even to go and go, just say, once every 6 months, you're gonna go to a program at that branch, I think that would give you a good sense of who the audience is at that branch and what sort of programs they have, that sort of thing, I think is helpful to you to understand the system as a whole instead of just Maine, especially if it's not the same branch that you're going to every year.
When I sent, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, mine was just a question.
It's okay.
Columbus has got close to 1 million people. How many branches does their library system have?
I think it was 18 or 20. It was right around 20, but I don't, we can send that to admin. Share it with you.
Well, and that doesn't seem very many if we have 8 and 100 of them.
9, yeah,
Nine.
no, we do have a lot of, we're well covered.
Yeah,
It's very well
Yes.
covered.
yay for us.
In the first set of slides,
Mhm.
I don't know if you can find there was a slide that got midway through equity, diversity, inclusion. I don't know if you,
The topics.
the topic on the top, it was that one,
There.
yeah. So it's interesting. So equity, diversity and inclusion, services for neurodivergent patrons, autism spectrum disorder. So that's really, that was the subset that you were referring to there.
Right.
See, I'm thinking about it because I think we've heard, having gone through the whole situation with the books and everything, that there's certain words, like those 3 words, equity, diversity, inclusion, seem to be charged words for certain members of our community. Having said that, if we talked about we wanted to do programmatics that were targeted toward neurodivergent, people that have autism spectrum disorder, that's the type of thing. And if that's what we're talking about, so it's interesting from the standpoint of wording.
Well, I don't think that was a subset of the EDI stuff. I think that was just a topic that libraries are talking about a lot
Okay.
right now. So there were a number of sessions on EDI, a number of sessions on neurodivergent patrons. Am I right? These are
Yes.
themes that they
Oh, yeah, I
saw.
was wondering if
Oh,
that was-
because there must be, I don't know, 500 sessions
yeah,
at this
okay, all right.
conference.
Probably.
Okay,
I don't know,
all right.
there's a lot.
Okay, so that
And so
was a
these
smaller
are-
print. Okay,
yeah,
that's better. I'm
These
glad I-
are overarching themes that they saw. I mean, a lot of people are talking about artificial intelligence.
Right.
But I mean, ability level is a piece of equity, diversity. and
Yeah.
inclusion.
Right. That's why I was thinking
Sure.
that might have been what they
So-
were.
Jerry had a question.
Actually, I just was gonna add to, after I scared you. When I would tell people to get out and walk around, it was with the understanding they were not out there as a manager intimidating anybody. They were there to walk around and listen and talk.
Right, right,
Period. Period.
right.
So sometimes I think some employees had no idea who they're talking to, and maybe that was okay. I don't.
Yeah.
That's all I was gonna add. It was not what you did.
Oh.
I know, Jerry, you are kind of.
Yeah.
I had a question about, were there any board governance sessions or anything having to do, is this a conference that a
Yes.
board member might be interested in?
Yes, there's a division for board members. I believe it's United for Libraries. So that might be something to look into.
Well, they don't, did they have a session here? The thing is that, it's really state by state and how libraries are run. So Indiana has its way where we have 7 board members that are appointed in certain ways. Some states have nonprofit libraries. I think Pennsylvania is entirely not-for-profit libraries, and so their boards operate differently. And then some are just city or county governments, departments of. So I don't know how much they have. I think the benefit of going to a session or a conference like this is that you really do begin to understand everything that's being talked about in libraries. So to that end, I do think if it were closed, it would be, and this was probably a good one because it was in Columbus, Ohio.
Yeah.
That there are interesting sessions for everybody.
The other thing I wanted to say too, because like picking up on your description of the art. So I'm also on the art board and we're doing strategic planning. And the component that came out strongest from that board, there's 3 parts to the art museum: exhibitions, collections, and education. And the one that came out strongest was education. And so I think, you know, there's some opportunities there for the art museum to pair with the library in all kinds of ways.
I had a question about Columbus. The budget was $35 million.
I think it was Anne Arundel in Maryland, I mentioned their budget.
But they didn't have it wasn't tied to the county budget. So was it what?
Oh,
It's
it
not
wouldn't
on the
say,
slide,
it wouldn't be on
it's-
that slide.
There was a pie chart on that slide. No, it was near the insert.
I think you said it was not city county, which is similar to ours.
Right.
Oh,
So county, but there's no county governance like overseeing
That's
the way
right.
like
They don't.
the city of Boston
Right.
oversees the Boston Public Library.
oh, their total budget 33 million.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But they're overseen by whom?
Columbus? I
Oh,
am not sure. So I did not learn that on this
I
trip.
think it's money from everybody, but including the lottery, I see. But small, but I'm
The
thinking,
bulk money comes from county.
yeah, but.
That's probably property tax.
probably.
Probably
Yeah.
not exact.
but then-
Every state is
but who's who oversees?
Oh, the oversight,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's what I would be interested to
Cause
see.
Maryland, you said?
More credit.
Yeah.
I agree, or the more credit they have to pick out.
I'm resigned to that.
Yeah, I really know how libraries work in Indiana. They work a little bit differently, and truly differently in every other
Yeah,
state.
oh, yeah.
Definitely.
Very good, thank you.
Okay,
Very
thank you.
informative.
Thank you, thank you.
Let's see, any other business?
No.
I believe- So our next meeting is Monday, June 24th. Here, Ashland B. For those of you that are interested, on Thursday, Valerie Jarrett will be in town, who used to be President Obama's senior advisor, and she's now the president of the Obama Foundation. And I have tickets to hear her. She's given a free talk, and she has her new book, which she's given away for free. She's gonna sign it that night, Thursday, and I'm getting an award that night for inclusive diversity. Ted Morris, at the Morris Performing Arts Center, I think it's a free, I have a bundle. If you wanna go Thursday night, 6 o'clock.
Yep.
It's the Valley is gonna be here, and I'm excited to be there.
Congratulations.
Congratulations.
He can these honors, I don't know why. Yeah, the business for the board.
I have one thing I don't want to let go by, which is your bits and branches or whatever that thing was called. Wonderful. Thank
Thank
you
you.
all. It was so great. It
And thank you to
really
Jenny and
was.
her team,
It had just a lot. of
and Dawn,
just-
and
It
Lisa.
was cool. Yes, thank you so much. And Stephanie, your presentation was so sharp and
you.
the slides were not. Excuse me,
I didn't understand what you were saying. I went to that event.
Anyway, you had the greatest presentation and it was really spot on and your slides were great. And,
Thank you.
I think anyone who came to that from the public would have thought these people have it together.
Thank you.
So, thank you.
Again, great team. Jenny won't let me design my own slides, so there's that.
Yeah, I'm gonna write our own presentation.
And the food was really good too.
Yeah.
We had the catnip mice.
Yeah.
But you still-
Center.
I
Center.
went home and made it, and just about killed that cat. Yeah, I think so.
You drug your.
On that note. Again, else we need to discuss besides. Okay, in that case, meeting's adjourned. Happy Memorial Day.